So I apologize in advance. I'm literally pinch hitting for one of my staff who's on his way from LaGuardia right now. So with that, I want to first say thank you all for coming. We're glad to be partners with Netbiscuits. It's been a great relationship for us as we've worked with a number of our global brands that we do business with today. A big part of that being the whole mobile enablement. And we'll run through a short presentation. Hopefully my partner's here soon to go through some of the detail in the back end of the presentation. And literally from this morning as I was flying up here, give a very real world example of why in a global, multi-language, multi-universe environment where a platform like Netbiscuits can be almost a life-saving type of approach for some of the global brands that we work with today. Interesting fact, I always like to at least start with something that's a little bit more off the cuff, but I think a little bit more of an interesting aspect. 4 billion mobile phones in use today, but yet there's only 3.5 billion toothbrushes in use today. So it kind of gives you an idea of what the real global scale of mobile is today. And I see my partner wandering in now, so I'm even more happy. Obviously, one of the big things that is realistic and key to an approach from a mobile perspective today. 10 times more adoption rate with coupons via a mobile phone than you will get out of a print advertisement in today's world on a global basis.
You can step off. He is not prepared for this.
Yeah. I'll drive for you. How's that?
So I literally landed at LaGuardia at 10:19. So the power of mobile. So 10 texts and 20 emails and jump in a cab, and we're comparing with traffic which way to go, pay by square, and actually made it. You started a minute early or something. So, and I'm out of breath running. The cab was 1 block away, and so I'm here. Okay, well, this was fluff, so just in case, I didn't make it. You guys have already probably seen this anyway. And Jason's probably already introduced us. We're with Corbus. And I'm one of those people that are just fascinated by where mobile is going. And obviously I saw it all morning as to how I'm using it. But the thing that we wanted to talk about was templates. And I'm also passionate about that the fact that mobile, we need to find a way to get mobile where it needs to be the most, which is we work with a lot of big companies, large consumer packaged goods companies, big ones, really big ones. And it's easy for the bigger the brands in that area to get mobile sites. It gets tougher if you start moving around the world to get the smaller brands that don't have the budgets to get a really rich mobile site. But what happens is, because of that, it's working exactly opposite, because those are exactly the brands that need a rich mobile site. Because people, if you go to around the world, don't have access to a laptop. They're going to only access it from a mobile site. So trying to figure out how to switch this around and make it easier for the smaller brands to ultimately get a rich mobile site for a rich mobile experience is one of the things that we're working very hard to obtain. And working with Netbiscuits, it's a great platform for us because it already handles the first thing, which is trying to figure out how to build once, and instead of write many, it's build once and send many, or build once and have it appear many everywhere that we need it globally. So how actually do I move this? Oh, you have. Oh. So if you haven't used templates and you start thinking about the whole template piece, we've used it successfully for websites, in social media, for applications before. But in mobile, I think it makes even more sense because the problem that you run into with websites when you start looking at templates is the depth of most websites. You start getting into 50, 60, 70 page websites. It's hard to deliver a good template version of that. And brand managers always complain that they're not rich enough. But quite frankly, in the mobile site, mobile business, it sort of works to our benefit because you don't really want a 50-page depth mobile site. Nobody could get through that. It really works best when you're 10 pages or less That's where you really optimize a mobile site. So quite frankly, when you're talking to brand managers and we're talking to our customers, the ability to tell them that the whole process of templates allows us to bring a rich look and a great environment for consumers in exactly where templates work the best. So by using templates, we were able to drive down the price a lot. And because I have some esteemed, well-respected competition in the room, I'll be glad to meet with others quietly and say how much, but it's a lot. So we drove down the price a lot, and we increased the speed a lot to how quick we could actually bring a mobile site up. Click. So you are good for something, so. So, I mean, there's just some mobile sites, and you guys, you see Netbiscuits, and you're familiar with the things that they're doing out there. So, click. So, if you Google mobile websites, some of the first ones come out are free. So they've really gotten the price down. But when you look at it, there's no depth. That's just one page. It's not going to connect into CMS. It doesn't have any real value. That's for the mom-and-pop pizza stores. What we're talking about are the mobile sites that work for large brands just without the big money to spend big dollars on mobile sites. So when you're talking about templates, you have to be able to say, adaptive creative design for rapid front-end development and all the major front-end components of mobile websites. And you have to be able to figure out how to connect into CMS if you're using TeamSite or Sitecore or any of the CMS products that are out there, because you need to still have a rich environment. Obviously, being able to use the modules that they offer makes a lot of sense to us. So, ready to integrate templates and wireframes, ready to integrate template business logic, ready to integrate CMS data provider. So we did a deal for Swiffer. And I'll just sort of give you some ideas about what this looks like when you're looking at templates. And we were able to back into wireframes for Swiffer and sort of show brand managers how this would look. And this is much easier than when we were trying to do this on the website. Again, because the depth of websites just doesn't lend itself very well to templates. Now, it does on microsites, but not full big websites. But in this, it made a lot of sense for us to do this. And we laid this out very well for brand managers, and we did Swiffer, and we showed them what it was going to look like. Go ahead and you can start flipping through some of this. Product listing pages. Again, when you get down to 10 pages, it was kind of easy for us to come up with a really robust product. Again, that was built on the whole template process and mentality. And you can flip through a couple more of these, but you can see how, from Expo TV reviews and various things that we were able to include. And then once we wireframed it out, it makes it very easy for us to go to other brands and say, here, you can include these pieces, and rapidly we can bring up a very rich mobile experience for consumers, because ultimately that's what we're trying to do. And again, we laid out where the content and the footer and the headers would be, product ratings and various pieces of it. Go ahead. And, to make it rich, you've got to do all this. You've got to obviously have the ability to, use what you see up here, Microsoft .NET and JSP and Java, and it's a more rich experience. So, why? So this is really the other piece of this. This is like the thing that ultimately we will be here in years from now is we've got to get the infrastructure in. So when you have thousands of sites and consumers around the world are accessing mobile phones at a pace that we won't be able to keep up with here, ultimately, what is it you're trying to do? And we're laying the groundwork for ultimately, from a marketing standpoint, one of the richest environments we'll ever be in is to actually touch the consumer at the point of contact when they're buying a product or service and be able to bring that information back. So we're, in some sense, we're reaching that holy grail of marketing, of actually touching the consumer all the time and getting all of that feedback. And smartphones are going to do that for us in the future. So, when you talk about thousands of sites, and if you're a big, large company and you want to put all of your brands on NetBiscuit, you want to empower all of your sites to give a great experience, from that you can start digging into the data, and you can start talking about tactical marketing campaigns and in-store activations using Q codes, which I'm not a big fan. I don't think we've really gotten that figured out yet. It's still a little cumbersome, but it does start to make a little more sense to me. Regionalized brand quizzes, and you can start to see how a company like P&G could use multiple different ways to market to consumers right down to the individual level and segment the markets all around the world. So that's what we're kind of really excited about. And even if I didn't have to run, I'd be out of breath if I was talking about this anyway, because I get excited about this. So that's basically, I took a picture of my phone doing the, something playing around with it. That's actually a screenshot of my iPhone saying the end. But, so that's where we are. Does anybody have any questions? Has anybody seen anybody more passionate than me this morning? There you go. Well, thank you very much. Oh, wait a minute.
So can you go into a little bit of detail as to, are you using the same type of templates across the different brands, and how can the templates, are you using the same templates across different brands? And that's the first question. If you are, how are you able to give each brand its unique feel and look?
Yeah, no, we don't use one template, but we can. You can give them a multiple templates, and you need to have some selection, and then there's some customization. But there are two things that we see. One is if you're dealing with a large billion-dollar brand, they're not interested in a template. That's fine. I'm not talking about the 10% of the brands where money's not an object. I'm talking about 90% where funds are an object, where getting additional dollars for marketing is always stretched. And ultimately, what they've spent their money over the last couple of years on websites but what now we're telling them, and quite frankly, now our own eyes are opened up that a great web experience in China, who's going to see it? Quite frankly, they're only going to see if you figure out how to get it on mobile phones. So we don't use the same template. We use multiple templates. We do allow a certain amount of customization, but if you want to drive down cost and you want to drive, and that's through efficiencies, you want to push them to the template model. And we do find it easier, again, on the mobile than we did on web. Yes?
Hi, everybody. These examples are very product-based. I know you also deal with some content delivery content providers.
Yep.
Is a template can it be the same theory to being able to deliver materials at a more cost-effective basis?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're just coming up with a template in that. I think you look at the verticals and you build templates based on the verticals. But the concept of a template is really to help the creative agencies give you the right assets in the right space. So what happens is if you're in the development world, you're at the mercy of the creatives, and they can get really creative because they do get they want to be out of the box on every campaign. So if they keep doing that, that works well if you have $1 billion to spend in marketing. But if you're a small company or if you're a small brand without a lot of dollars, getting your creative to give you some out-of-the-box concept that would cost you $100,000 doesn't make any sense. So we do it the opposite way, and we think that most brands, say 80-90% of the brands worldwide, have to reverse that, which means we have to provide to the creatives, here is the wireframe, now go give me the assets that fit that. And by reversing that process, we can drive down the cost, even on the creative side. Doesn't mean that you don't have, ultimately, a great mobile site, and that's what you should strive for, but we want to ultimately give a customer a great experience, and have the money to get there. So first we got to get them enabled, and then we can look at all the benefits from that.
Piggybacking off of that, former drill sergeant.
Yes, sir. Let me stand a little taller.
So I'll sit down now. Given piggybacking off of that, are there abilities through the templates to maybe read certain content deliveries, so know who's on Wi-Fi, who's on 3G, for assets like video or more interactive content?
Yeah. I mean, just because it's template. So we have this mentality, and that's another reason why I'm excited is I think we have this mentality that templates means boring and old and nobody's going to want it. But you can still have templates with the ability to insert exactly those kind of things. So template doesn't have to be, I guess boring is the right word. It doesn't have to be so regimented that you don't have all the rich features. You just have to build a template so that you're ready to insert those things. And again, it's all about looking at processes. So when you're looking at one mobile site, it's hard to figure out what the processes are. When we start looking at hundreds of sites, then obviously we can start driving efficiencies and start looking at what these brands ultimately want and figure out the templates they want. And again, we can start driving, and I mean really reducing the time to build them, which reduces their overall cost, which again, that meets the brands, what their needs, which is give me a great, robust mobile site.
I mean, if I can add one thing when it comes to timing in particular. So the example this morning, as Don said, we deal with a lot of CPG customers, a lot of pharma customers that, whether it's a pharma customer that's got an FDA approval or an FDA ruling that might be going against them, the biggest, or one of the biggest impacts that we see in using templates is really more around the speed to get the creative out to the public. We're dealing with the situation literally this morning as I was flying up, where a very unfortunate situation, but one of our customers has a product that actually caused a death. They're trying to, as quickly as possible, rectify the situation, ensure it doesn't happen again, communicate to all of their customers that have bought the product, but at the same time offer a quasi-recall platform for the customers to be able to come back and solve that issue that this particular death was caused by. So it's imperative that you can get it. Our customers are expecting us to have the site live this afternoon. We got the information this morning. Creative's not even done with it yet, but the framework is already in place. As the information is shot over to us, we can compile it, get it up and get it live and get it instantly going within hours of the incident actually happening. So that whole timing thing is critical with all of our customers today. They want it now, not 6 weeks.
Yeah, quite frankly, there's a great savings cost, but working with a lot of big brands worldwide, I can tell you that the speed to market is way more important to them than the cost. When I start talking cost, I mean, if you go way up the ladder, they appreciate the cost savings. But from a brand manager, it's almost always the speed to market. They don't want to wait 3 months for anything. They want to have it in 2 weeks or a week. And some of these things we're talking about, can we deliver a great, robust experience in a day? And when you can do that, obviously you're going to bring down the cost and start figuring out the efficiencies. Any other questions?
How much does the integration to the back-end CMS give flexibility for the customer to make these types of changes? So if the templates, can you create situations where the client can make these changes on their own by just making changes in the CMS?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole concept. Again, you're still living within the wireframes, but if you're going to tie it into a CMS, now you're even bringing more value to the brand because you're even cutting down more of the M&O work and the future work. So I think that's also a smart idea. So quite frankly, when we tie in Netbiscuit, and you work for Netbiscuit, so we love your product. So when you tie in Netbiscuit and a CMS tool to a templated mobile site, you're going to find that what we have found is we can really drive down the cost and really give a really rich experience to a brand. So and actually launch it very quick, which are, to me, those hit on a lot of great things for us. And I've been dealing in the mobile space in social media for apps and things like that just take a long time. We have really seen some significant savings in all of that. But again, it doesn't do any good to have a fast mobile site that's cheap, that doesn't have any integration, you can't work with a great CMS tool to ultimately help change the content and bring down the cost and make it a rich environment also. So it's got to do all of those things.
And the information that you have to give to the brands in order to have an advocate in these large organizations to do more and more. Can you talk to me about some of the prep work or some of the work that you need to do? I mean, do you set it up so that it's plug and play for them, that the price is set?
Well, it's a combination of a couple things. I mean, you have to, you're exposing them to reduction in time and cost savings and efficiencies, but ultimately, if you're big brands and you're these global brands, what you're really trying to get them to buy into is none of that. What you're really trying to get them to buy into is like that last screen, is ultimately how can we touch consumers from a marketing perspective and pull that data? Because until we figure these pieces out, that there's still a lot of data out there that when we get is going to help us drive merchandising and marketing to these consumers. So it's laying the groundwork. Ultimately, it's like, we're out there running fiber cable, 25 years ago, that we knew what the payoff would be when we landed it. It's the same thing. Getting mobile devices and ultimately getting sites that work on mobile sites really well and understanding all those pieces. Once we get that infrastructure in, there are another whole conversations we'll have on marketing. And so we really look at from a marketing perspective of explaining to the customers, we know what you're trying to get out from a data standpoint. Ultimately, you've got to lay the groundwork, and this is all part of the infrastructure that ultimately brings them the best marketing presence they will ever have. I don't know, ultimately this is going to be the end. You'll get right to the consumer and you'll be with the consumer all day. It's the best marketing opportunity we'll have in my lifetime, maybe. Well, because I'm a little older, but.
A 101, and then because you have this groundwork that they can layer in new facets of their marketing as it comes, and you can reflect.
You're working with marketing. I'm working with legal because, quite frankly, this is one of the parts that I just recently went through. So, Corbus, we handle social media governance for P&G globally, and I had to figure out at P&G how to get marketing, brand managers, and legal in the same room. And have a conversation. And that took quite a bit of time. They don't speak the same language, so they couldn't even figure out how to even have a conversation. But legal brings another whole different perspective. You have PSA scans, you have PII information, you have all of the things that when you start moving to mobile devices that legal wants to make sure they have a handle on. But quite frankly, what we saw in templates is the ability to cut down on a lot of the legal use, because once we had a template approved and we showed them with the wireframes and we got them comfortable with how to what we were having, what was frozen and what was not, it became easier for legal to understand the process and for them not to have to go through a reuse look from a legal standpoint or PSA scans and the various different pieces constantly. And again, that was a big cost savings for them. Any other questions? Yes. Well, that's what that's what his job is. My job is just to get excited with the brand. Ultimately, the heavy lifting, goes over here. There's new browsers. I expect that NetBiscuit platform is to go figure that out. I don't think HTML5. We're all out there talking about it, but until that's the accepted version 5 years from now, right now that there's not an answer. So the one-offs for that's out there, but I expect there's going to be lots of new browsers and obviously lots of phones and lots of mobile devices and lots of pads. We haven't even seen I don't think the beginning of that.
Well, we brought in our chief revenue officer here in New York last year.
So I hear somebody else is talking. So I think we have a question from the speaker in the front. But ultimately, I'm sure that's what partnering with Netbiscuit, what they bring to the table is figuring that piece out. Okay. So we'll put the pressure on them to figure that part. Any other questions? Good. Well, thank you very much.